Hello and welcome to Mommy Consults. I am Michelle Kay, and this is a space where moms heal their emotional wounds so that they can create a legacy of wellness and become better parents for our next generation of kids. Today, we are going to talk about EMDR. It's one of my favorite things to do for a therapy modality. It stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Now, I know that that is a lot of words, but when it comes down to it, we want to think about it this way. This is usually how I explain it to my clients. When we experience trauma, when we experience events that happen in our life, what often happens is, our brain is, of course, having all these thoughts. But really, what happens is within our body, we are having emotional reactions. And these emotional reactions sometimes get kind of trapped in the body. And so I always say that, like, sometimes it gets trapped in little crevices, little vessels, and places within our body. And so our body is kind of just like keeping the score. It's keeping this emotional tank that keeps coming up. Now, in traditional therapy, you might be releasing that emotional tank and just kind of having that emotional tank go down, a little bit. But I would probably say the fastest way that I've seen that emotional tank go by is through EMDR. So, what you're going to do usually in EMDR is your therapist is going to take you through what we call bilateral stimulation. It's also now kind of named like a dual attention stimulation. So you'll hear different terms that are coming up. And what that means is they're going to either use like rapid eye movements. So they're going to take their fingers and have you kind of look at those fingers from side to side. So your eyes are going to be kind of looking through that and create this kind of stimulation, this dual action stimulation that's happening. My favorite one is tapping. So I use tapping because I feel that our body is so connected, and so when we can kind of actually use our body, that actually tends to help a lot of my clients. So I use tapping, whether it's on the arms, the hands up here. Sometimes they can use them on their legs, but there's a lot of different ways. Sometimes you can have a ball moving across the screen like this. There's all different ways that I have seen this stimulation happening. And so, what's really essentially happening is your brain is kind of processing the stimulation that's happening. The real world example that I like to talk about is when you go for a walk. So, if you've ever gone for a walk and you have like a podcast or something in your ear, your feet are kind of doing this. It's going like kind of like a really like pace that's maybe it's a fast pace, and a lot of times your brain is receiving these messages from what you are listening to. And so by creating this stimulation, even from walking, you are essentially kind of having messages go to your brain. Your brain's doing this work kind of all by itself. And it's kind of similar to that. And what I find about EMDR is your brain processes these situations, these trauma events, all by itself through this stimulation. Your therapist is going to be trained in this. So they're going to be able to kind of go through, there's 8 phases of EMDR and guide you through that. You're also going to learn a lot of skills to help you kind of regulate yourself when you might be flooded, for example. So, flooded would be like maybe a lot of those emotions come up all at once and you just feel like, sometimes you can feel like you want to burst out. And so they're going to give you a lot of techniques to help you move through that. One of the reasons why I love EMDR is actually I had EMDR done to me. So as a therapist, sometimes we go through difficult situations in our lives. And for me personally, I was going through a very difficult time. Just a lot of things coming up at being a mom, also having to deal with my parents, dealing with a lot of generational issues that are coming up. And so what I found is I was like, something needs to happen. And I'm running a business too. And I found that I really wasn't being able to concentrate on my business, on my work, being a parent. And I knew traditional therapy could help, but I was trained in this. And I was like, I even through my practice, I practiced this with a partner, and a lot of things came up for me. So I knew something essentially had to change. So by getting an EMDR therapist, researching that, knowing what I really wanted to work on, I worked on a lot of my childhood issues and not realizing that my childhood issues had actually been essentially kind of like trapped in my body. I even talk about a time where I did EMDR and I had to use kind of the stop technique, which is like telling like my therapist, no, I can't keep going because it was too hard for me. I didn't realize that a lot of the experiences I had as a childhood had just flooded over me and created a huge emotional experience that I needed to take a break, even in session. So I'm a therapist, and even having to do EMDR and taking a moment to kind of just stop myself is important. So when we think about using EMDR, maybe ask yourself, what are some of the questions that are starting to bubble up for you? Are you still unsure about what EMDR is? Does it scare you, or make you feel uncomfortable? A lot of times people kind of think that it's like a woo-woo kind of thing, and maybe that's something that you might have to process. So, whatever that is for you, I encourage you to begin journaling. Journaling is a great technique that I tell a lot of my clients to do, even maybe after we've done some EMDR, to just journal. What are you noticing? What are you feeling within yourself, within your body, within your mind? And so start to, for homework right now, start to just think of some of those questions and things that come to mind for you. You could also put it in the chat below and I can answer that for you. Any of your questions that you're unsure about. And don't forget to subscribe to Mommy Consults. Take care.